Okay, so today I want to talk about arrays and a few ways to manipulate them, some common methods that I've used just over the years. But an array is as it says here in W3 schools, it's a special variable that can hold more than one value. But it's important to note that you can only store the same type of data. You can't mix the different types of data. So you can have an array of only strings, an array of only integers or objects, Boolean values such as true and false. As you can see here, this is in an array of integers, which is allowed, and this is an array of mixed data types, which is not allowed. And just a quick example of what a real life example would be of why somebody would use an array could be, so this is one of my favorite clothing stores, and if you go to their website and you click on an item that you want to purchase, you'll see here that this shirt has multiple colors, black, green, orange. Well, they're completely out, but when building the site, likely this is going to be an array. So it's going to be an array of colors, which then would have a string of black and green and orange. And then here you've got your sizes. So likely this is also this data is going to be put in an array as well. So it would be an array that'll look something like let size equal, small, medium, large, bold, sorry, and so on. So hopefully that helps kind of like put a mindset and understanding why we would use an array. Okay, so let's get started. And the first thing that you want to do is create your array. And there's a few different ways that you can create arrays, which W3 schools and many other sites will show you how to do. But the easiest way is just to create it with this syntax. You can use const or let. I'm going to use let because we're going to be doing some manipulations on it. And so let's just name it. Well, I'm going to stick with the Harry Potter theme today. So I'm going to do some Harry Potter characters. So normally if I'm just playing around, I probably would just name this something like R or array, but we're going to do characters. So let's just name them characters, or this variable characters. And then, of course, we've got the main Hermione, separate them by comma, Harry, and Ron. Okay, so here, yes, we've created our array. And as you can see in the documentation, you could space it out. It's not going to make a difference. It can span across multiple lines. But let's talk about how to access the elements in an array. So if your array is this small and you know exactly what is in it, you can access it by its index. So if you didn't know, the beginning of an array, the index is 0. And then it increases by there. So Harry is at index 1 and Ron is at index 2. And let's console log this. The way that you would do that is the name of the array and the index here with this bracket. And then you'll see here it should console log Hermione. Here it should console log Harry, and here it should console log Ron. So we'll just run this, and you'll see right here those console logs. Let's say you don't know what is in your array and you need to loop through it. So there's multiple ways to loop through something, but let's just do a for loop. Generally, if I'm doing like a leet code problem, I would do something like loop, and then there's ways to access elements depending on what you're trying to access, or depending on what the condition is. So let's see. So if we're going to loop through it, we're going to for let I equals 0. We're going to start from the very beginning. So index 0 is Hermione, while I is less than the length of the array. So we'll just do characters dot length, and then we'll just increment it here. And then we can go ahead and console log here just each element. So let's see, it shows us here that this is how you access it by the I, by indice. So you'll just do characters I. So we run this, we'll see the same thing. Yep, it's gonna loop through that as many times. It's gonna go through the length, so it's gonna loop through it 3 times, and it's output each of the index as it sees it. So, I mean, if we were to change it here, you'll see that the outcome is different. So Hermione, Ron, and Harry. And another way to access, let's see, is accessing the first and the last. So the first element we know is 0. So let's get rid of this loop here. So characters 0, we know that's going to be Hermione, but the last one, sorry, console.log. Ooh, sorry guys. So we're going to do characters, and then we'll do array.length. Why did it do that? Sorry, my VS Code is, oh, sorry, it's characters.length. It's not VS Code, it's me. Which the length is going to be 1, 2, 3, right? So if we're passing in the index here and we do characters 3, it's not going to be anything because that doesn't exist. So we're going to want to subtract it by 1. So if we do characters length by 1, you know it's going to be 3 minus 1, which is going to then console log Harry. So if we run that, we've got Hermione, which is the first one. Here, let's differentiate this. First, last. Let's clear this out. We've got first is Hermione and last is Harry. Okay, so we went ahead and covered how to create an array and how to access the element by its index, by its first and its last, and how to access an element through a loop. But let's go through this loop again and kind of showcase like how to access it. You know, maybe we want to access an element that starts with an R or an element that starts with an H. Generally in a leet code problem, maybe you would want to access elements that are greater than 5 or so on. So something of that line. So if you don't know what's going to be in your array, of course you'll want to do a for loop again. We'll start at 0. We'll do while it's less than characters dot length. And then we'll just say, let's say we just want to get the characters that start with H. So if we're looping through this, okay. So sorry, I had to pause the video really quick because my neighbor's kid was playing some super loud music. Okay, so back where we were, if let's say we want to access the elements in here that start with H, maybe your lead code problem or whatever it is, like there's something specific that you need to grab. So then you would loop through it and you would add a condition. So let's say like if characters I, which is how we access each index as it's looping through, then if it's equal to dot char at, let's say the first one, so char at, let's go through that really quick. Oh, we don't want Java. To get the first character in this string is char at 0, right? So if we do char at 0, it's going to check just the first of each. So if it's an H, you know, whatever it is that you want to do with it, we'll just console log it to show that it's going to just log whichever characters those are. And it should just show you Hermione and Harry, or if we wanted to just do R, of course, this is going to log just Ron. So depending on, you know, I don't know, maybe you want to render it on your website, like whatever it is specifically, then you would just put like your, whatever it is that you're trying to do within here. Okay, so yeah, the next thing is a couple methods, which, you know, we use, you know, I use pretty regularly. We've already used it, so you can see here that it's looping through the length. If you were to console log the length, of course, you would get 3 here, as it's just counting how many elements are in the array. Okay, so we've talked about those. We've talked about how to access element with a loop and to add conditionals within it, depending on what it is that you're trying to do. We know how to get the length of it. Now let's talk about these few methods where you can manipulate. And I have used push quite often. So let's see, W3 schools, these are the methods. So we'll just talk about, there's a few of them, right? But I just want to talk about push and pop, because those are ones I've used a little more frequently, and concat. And then I'll do like a part 2 of this to just kind of go over splice and slice, which I've also used pretty regularly. So can I click on this? No. Let's just pop down to pop. Pop, so this is pretty straightforward in this documentation. I really do like W3 schools. I think it's pretty easy to understand. If you don't find it easy to understand, then, you know, find whatever documentation it is that works best for you, whatever the language is. I like this because it's very straightforward and it's got a lot of these examples, so you can just try it yourself, like within this app. So the pop method is going to remove the last element from an array. So let's just add to this a little bit, because there's definitely more cool characters like Jenny and Dumbledore, of course. Let's close that out. Okay, so the way to do this here, it shows characters, or fruits, in this case, banana, orange, apple, mango, fruits.pop. Without running this, I know it's gonna pop off mango. So if we go ahead and do characters.pop here, we know it's gonna pop off Dumbledore. And then if we want to store what it's popping off, we can put this in a variable and just name it, I don't know, popped. We'll just name it popped. So if we go ahead and log characters, and then we log popped, you'll see there's a way to access, the array with the popped element and the popped element itself. So I'll go ahead, let me clear this, run this again. You'll see on the first line, the array minus Dumbledore, and then of course we logged just what was popped off. And then we have the push method, which is the opposite. So this is going to add a new element to the array, to the end of the array. So let's erase this and add a character, Dobie. Yeah, let's add Dobie. So as you can see here, it's still using the fruits array and it's doing fruits.pushQE, so you can assume that this array is going to be banana, orange, apple, mango, and QE. So we'll just do characters.push, and we will add Dobie. I'll probably lowercase that because they're all lowercased. Okay. And then let's just console.log our characters now. Our list is just getting so long. Let's clear that out. And there we go. Hermione, Ron, Harry, Ginny, Dumbledore, and Dobie. Okay, so we've talked about the push and we've talked about the pop. Now let's talk about concat. Let's scroll down to concat. Okay, so this is going to create a new array by merging existing arrays. So you can do multiple arrays, but for this example, we're just going to create a second array and we'll combine the entire thing. So let's do another, what should we call it? Additional characters. It's a little long. Who would our additional characters be? We've got Molly Weasley, Fred, and George. Okay, so now here, it's something to note is that it doesn't change the existing arrays. So going through this, characters is still going to be characters, additional characters is still going to be additional characters. So if it's going to create a new array, we know that we have to hold that in a variable. So we'll just do combined characters. Combined characters. And then here it shows that you'll choose the array that you want to be concatenated with, and then you'll pass in the array that's being concatenated. So we'll do characters dot concat and then additional characters. And then of course, let's just show it backwards. We'll do we'll do additional characters dot concat, and we'll do characters. Okay, so when we console log this, combine characters here, because we're starting with characters, the array is going to start with Hermione and it's going to end with George. And then when we hit, then we console log backwards, it's going to start with additional characters. So it's going to start with Molly, and then it's going to be concatenated with characters, and it's going to end with Dumbledore. So let's clear that and then run it again. Oh, wait, I didn't console log it. Sorry. Combined characters, and then we'll do characters here. Silly me. Okay, so yeah, as we said, Hermione is going to be first and it's going to end with George, so that is our combined characters. And then our backwards one, which is the second array, starts with Hermione. And wait, what? Oh. We console logged the wrong thing. I didn't console log backwards. Little live debugging. Okay. All right. And again, yeah. How did I? Silly me. Sorry. It's a Sunday at 7. All right. So the first one is Molly, and then it ends in Dumbledore. Okay. So yeah, so those are just a few methods that that we can, manipulate an array with. I have used them pretty frequently. I hope that this has been helpful, kind of breaking this stuff down and going along with the documentation. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to reach out. And stay tuned. I will continue on with these array methods because there is a lot more. But yeah, so thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. Bye.